everyone. It's Mark Thompson, and I'm so thrilled to have with me today a leader in the hospitality industry who's transforming the way you get served all over the world. The Taj Group has just done a remarkable job in transforming, I think, the way we show up as leaders as well, because every single person you'll ever meet in that organization is a role model for service and for contribution. And so that's been the through line here with the CEO series. We're talking to people who are making an intentional effort to get better and better at what they do, provide increasingly high levels of service. And now, after 25 years of doing this program, I'm delighted to have you share with us some of your insights about what it means to be a hospitality leader. So thank you so much for being on the program.
No, thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here. Just to tell you a bit about myself, I'm the area head for the Taj hotels in the Middle East. I also overlook the CIS development in the CIS countries and a bit of North Africa, but mainly I'm based in the Middle East. So it's a delight to be here. I'm glad we connected in London, and here we are. On this very, very prestigious interview. I'm delighted to be a part of it, actually.
Well, thank you so much, because you deserve to be. And I think the GCC in the Middle East has been a spectacular example of transformation and growth, a willingness to invest, stand behind those investments, and then produce levels of services that are world class. So tell us a little bit about where you are having impact within the Middle East in the work that you're doing and the locations that you're serving right now, and how you feel about development in that part of the world.
I think it is a great, great city. We are based in Dubai. I'm based in Dubai, and we have three beautiful hotels here in Dubai. There's a city center hotel right next to the Burj Khalifa called the Taj Business Bay.
Yes.
And then we have the Taj at the JLT, Jumeirah Lake Towers. Again, a beautiful skyscrapers. When you're driving from Dubai to Abu Dhabi through the Sheikh Zayed Road, which is the main motorway, the JLT, Taj JLT cannot be missed. It's a beautiful positioning that we have there in terms of location and proximity. And then we have the stunning Taj Exotica. It's a very exotic hotel at the Palm Jumeirah. So Palm Jumeirah, it's an iconic place, and that's how we like to position our hotels. We want our hotels to be iconic, especially when we go outside India. In India, we have many palaces, portfolios, about 650 hotels today worldwide between operating and in the pipeline. But in the Middle East, we have three operating and we have three others signed. So, but now that we are very well established in India, we want to be in Middle East. We want to grow in Middle East, and it is all happening in Middle East. You hear a lot about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. UAE is a stunning country. Its ease of doing business, how it is welcoming to different nationalities. So we're very fortunate to call Dubai home. Apart from Middle East, we also have hotels in the US. We've got hotels in New York and San Francisco. We've got hotels in London. We've got hotels in Sri Lanka, Cape Town, Maldives. So international portfolio is pretty limited at the moment, but we are on our way to make sure we expand, especially in Africa. We'll have quite a few nice hotels coming up. Good news is underway very soon. So that's a bit about our footprint.
That is, it's remarkable how that's grown and the kind of impact that you're having. As you said, you tell us a little bit more about what it means to have that wow factor that must be difficult to differentiate yourself from other hotel groups and other hospitality. I think that's how to differentiate yourself. What would be your advice in terms of both, I guess, the physical representation and then also the services?
Well, that's a fantastic question, Mark. And it's all about making the difference. It's all about differentiating yourself from different brands. See, hospitality industry is very vast today. We're in the business of hospitality. It is, you've got the biggest companies from the US and Europe,
Right.
and to find yourself in that space and to rub shoulders with mega industries, you have to have some sort of differentiator. And we have that differentiator. But let me go back to tell you the future and where we are today. Let's go back a little bit to the history. The group started in 1903 when Jamshedji Tata, our founder, he made the first hotel of India.
Mm.
This was the first five-star establishment, the first elevator of India, which was in a hotel, which is the Taj Mahal Palace, Mumbai, right across the gateway of India. You
Oh,
know,
yes.
and from there the journey started. Now we have many palaces that we manage. These are real palaces from the bygone eras, and now these palaces are managed by the Taj Group. So Taj has always stood for that iconic luxury. It stood for its the grandeur, the expansiveness of the hotel, the luxury element of the hotel. But I think the most important thing is what differentiates us is the Tajness. We've coined a term called Tajness, which is we go out of our way to make sure our customer is treated as God. In Indian culture, because we're an Indian company, and the company is actually called as Indian Hotels Company Limited, IHCL, and Taj is one brand of IHCL. In Indian culture, we used to say there's a saying in Sanskrit which goes like Atithi Devo Bhava, which means guest is God. So whenever a guest comes to your house, right, you treat guest as God. That's the culture, and that's the philosophy that we live by. That's the philosophy we talk about, and that is what Tajness is. When a guest comes to us, we just make sure that the guest is taken care of. We go out of our way, we exceed all expectations, we anticipate the needs, and that's the differentiator. Hardware is of course important in a five-star luxury establishment. So that's why we have iconic hotels. We have these palaces, we have the pier at the New York, we've got the 51 Buckingham Gate next to the Buckingham Palace in London. We have these properties in Palm Jumeirah, and the most beautiful locations, stunning destinations. But what is the real differentiator is we treat our guest as God.
When you, when you talk about the Tajness and the guest as God, you're way ahead of me because I wanted to ask you to take that metaphor of the way you show up and the service you provide into how we can show up as leaders or how we can think about, let's say, many of the people on this broadcast are in service businesses. Many are in hardware businesses, and many now are in both because it's about providing services around the hardware as well. I
Mm.
had the privilege of being a coach for Enrique Lores, who became CEO of Hewlett Packard and leaned into the culture. The original culture was about service. It was about collaboration. It was about being a partner with your customer, and elevating that relationship. Now you're taking it to an entirely new level when you say the guest is God. Could you talk more about that philosophy in terms of how we might internalize that in service businesses for the entrepreneurs and leaders of organizations that are doing services?
I think it's a very deep question, Mark, and a very vast question. But I'll try to decode it and give you a simple answer. I think it's about creating that memory. It's about creating that memorable experience, especially in the
Mm,
service industry, in the hospitality industry. If the
yeah.
customer remembers your name, we always say we should use the guest name, right? But if the customer remembers your name, that's where you've delivered the memorable service. That's why when
Oh,
you go to
interesting.
the
Yes.
F&B establishment, the restaurant, retail establishments, there are certain companies and certain brands which say, "Hey, my name is Mark, and I'm your server today," right?
Yes.
So if the guest will only remember your name once you have delivered that exceptional service, which is a memorable service. And there is a trick to it. How you can make sure that the guest remembers you. Okay, what I tell my people, but my team members, every time we have the induction of the new joiners, I go in and I give a quick introduction of ourselves, our what we believe in, our values, our culture, etc. But most importantly, I tell them about memorable experiences, which is you treat the guest as you would treat your best friend, as you would treat your cousin visiting you to Dubai, right? And in any industry. So if you're a auto salesman, you're selling I don't know, a car. Let's use our own brand called a Jaguar or a Range Rover, which belongs to the Tata Group. You know,
Yes.
as a salesman, you should be putting yourself into the customer's shoes and saying, hey, you know what, this is the best car ever. You see a young customer in front of you, say, he would like a fast car. Let me recommend him a nice sports car, or an F type or something, a convertible one. When you
Right.
see there's a family which has come to see a car, right? And you think that this is my friend, this is my cousins who are coming to buy a car. And then you tell them, you know what, for you, the Range Rover autobiography will be the best one because it's the most comfortable and the most luxurious, the safest car. So you empathize, you treat them as your best friends, and the right kind of answers come to you as a salesperson. We don't have to. Sometimes I also tell them it's very very rare what I'm going to tell you, because I tell my team members, the waiters that I'm inducting in the first day in the industry, tell them you don't have to oversell, don't upsell, give the customer what they want, not what we want to sell. So understanding what your customer wants, thinking of them as not only as God, but also thinking that your cousin is visiting you, yeah, to your shop or your business or your hotel, and then the right way and the right answers come. You know, that's, I think, that is what creates the most memorable experience. People remember you, and that creates that snowball effect, and customer comes back to you, creates a repetitive business. They talk to other people, so there's word of mouth. So I think the business of hospitality, or our industry hospitality, is about simplicity. It's about keeping things simple, keeping things, absolutely the way you would want to be treated.
Mm. It's interesting you introduced the term simplicity. I'm thinking about when you're treating that customer with higher elevation, like a family member or like a god. That implies a relationship. I haven't heard anything you've described here that sounds the least bit transactional. It's not that I'm staying with my family for the night. I'll be back. I will be coming on special occasions. I'll be there in the context of my greater life and
Yeah.
have to decide where I'm coming. And I have many
Yeah.
choices. And you're saying you're welcome here as something more than just an overnight guest. It's not a one night stay.
Absolutely. It's never a one night stay. So, Mark, I think, it is important when you think that a friend of yours is visiting you, what would you tell in a hospitality industry, in a hotel? Imagine this, your best friend comes to your house. You would tell him, hey, what do you want to do tonight? And this is what we tell our guests. What are you doing tonight? Can I help you organize something? Do you want to go for dinner? And that gives me opportunity also to explain my services, my different restaurants, different
Yeah.
hotels that we have. We have the Taj Exotica by the beach, and there's a beautiful restaurant there by the beach, or there's a rooftop there. You must go there. This is what I will tell my best friend, right? And that's
Yes.
how you tell the guests, and that creates the most lasting and memorable and impactful experience for our guest. And that's a decent differentiator, I
It's
would say.
very, it's a big differentiator and it's very inspiring. And honestly, I have to say, it's simple in concept, but for most organizations and for most people, very difficult to actually do. So I'm imagining, of course, you're screening to try to find people who get energy from making that kind of connection. I mean, it's not everybody who instantly lights up at the idea that I've got to have family over. And so you're looking for the former rather than the latter there. Talk a little bit about that, how that affects your selection process.
So, you know, when I was looking for my first job, there were a lot of questions asked around how do you make a particular cocktail. I
Mm,
started my career as an intern. We used to call it industrial training. You know, it sounds like we're going to be working in a steel factory, but trust me, it was a beautiful five-star hotel. And they would ask us cocktails. How do you? The most difficult question I was ever asked as a 17-year-old was, how do you make a cigar? Believe you me, I had no idea. So I started asking the same thing when I became a restaurant manager. I started asking my waiters, "How do you make a Bloody Mary?" The most difficult one once was one of my assistant managers was asking a waiter, "What is the recipe of a Worcester sauce?" You know, I'm like, wow, even I don't know that. I think those days are gone. You know, we look for now in people. We look for attitude. Do they have an attitude of
mm,
being humble? Our MD and CEO, Mr. Puneet Chatwal, who has taken this company from 150 odd hotels to 650 hotels in last 6 to 8 years. He always says the first cut is you have to be a nice guy to be working in our company. You
mm,
need to be a humble person. You have to be a modest person. You have to have the heart in the right place. You know.
mm,
Then the second thing we look for is, at my level, I look for is that person has attitude. Is that person charming enough? Is a person can have a decent conversation? Can I have a conversation which is not very superficial. It is not limited to phraseology. It is not limited to, the status quo. It is about having a decent conversation. Hey, how are you today? Something as simple as that, instead of saying good morning. And that stiff neck attitude is not there. So we need, in today's hospitality industry, we need people who are more relaxed, more easygoing, more charming, and then all these, the sales pitch and everything, flows. As they
Mm.
say, culture eats strategy for lunch. So if
Yes.
your culture is right, everything else falls in place. So we need people who are culturally rich, who have good values, who are, charming, and they can have a pleasant conversation, who are pleasant, and above all, they're nice people. They have the heart in at the right place.
Mm. That's lovely to think that you can be rewarded for all those character attributes, which are something we love in family members as well as in the community and our neighbors, and so you can treat them
Yeah.
that way. And it's a virtuous cycle. When you think about the biggest challenges you have, what are the hardest things to do? If you think about the people listening to this program are running businesses, they're leading businesses, they're leading great divisions like yours. What's the toughest things that you have to roll up your sleeves and do?
I think we have fun in our industry. It's a very interesting industry. It's a global industry. Everybody wants to be a part of hospitality industry. The more and more investors are coming in. Our UHNIs who come to our hotels is like, Saurabh, please tell us a way to invest. How can we get inside this industry? It's a great industry. The challenges are there like any other industry. But I think some of the challenges are to give the returns to our investors consistently,
Mm,
because the political scenarios change. Different parts of the world, there are different things going on, without mentioning and spelling it out with clarity. But there are challenges. There
sure.
geopolitical scenarios, etc. So these are challenges. How you circumvent around it is challenging. You have to take quick decisions. We can't be operating the same way how we were operating 3 months back, because every three
Mm,
months something new happens. So to
right.
be adapting to the challenges is, I would say, for your listeners, that we should be quick in deciding. It's about being fast. It's about being agile. It's about taking quick decisions and adapting to the scenario. So our challenges are giving the ROIs consistently to our investors. Our challenges are to make sure we adapt quickly to the political scenarios around this. Um,
Hmm.
Recruitment is, we spoke about recruitment and how we select, but getting those right people consistently. We have a brigade of over 600-700 people per hotel. Any five-star hotel in Dubai will have approximately 500 plus hotels, because the ratio to the room is almost the double. Is 1.5, 1.6 per room. So
Right.
to consistently having a perfect recruit in the housekeeping, in the F&B business, in the front office business, it's not very easy, because there are many industries that pay you better than hospitality industry. You know, so you have to be really on top of your game when you to find the right people, to go to the right places, right source markets, right recruiting agents that we collaborate with. That's one of the challenges that we have. And
When you think about that, the world is changing quickly. This sense of agility that you're talking about, that sense of responsiveness, the sense of not being frozen by complexity, but indexing towards the simplicity of your values. I can see draw a very clear metaphor from those business conditions that require being very flexible and being very responsive to also the use case for the service that you're providing people, because things change for
yeah,
them. You're helping them this moment. They may be here for a wedding. They might be here for a major business conference, and then stuff is happening all the
yeah,
time. So being embracing that's one of the things that really struck me when I met you at Parliament. That's when we first connected, was at the Institute of Directors, the Global Institute of Directors, a great Indian organization with a global diaspora and impact all over the world with India. And tell me about that dimension of being able to contribute to having impact for India, and the Tata legacy. Could you comment on the role that you feel like you play in employment and community and in society? How do you feel about that important
yeah.
role you
Well,
play?
I'm being nostalgic now. You're reminding me of my speech in the House of Lords, and I
Yes.
spoke a lot about the company that I was representing, which is Indian Hotels, and it's part of the Tata Group. And I know where you're coming from when you say that. And it's a great question, Mark, because we really believe in giving back to the community. Our founder, Mr. Jamshedji Tata, said that the community is not just another stakeholder; it's a very purpose of your existence. So it's a purpose-driven company.
Mm.
I work with many different international companies, and I would not like to mention the brand names, but the sense of leadership that I get here, the sense of responsibility that I get in this company, it is all driven because we all work for a big cause. We all work for a cause that we are here for the community. you know Leadership is not only about leading from the front, which it is, but there are many different elements of it. But very recently in my career, I realized it's all about giving back to the community. It is
Mm.
a company that is huge. We make a lot of revenue and profitability, and believe you me, when we don't reach our forecasted numbers, we are questioned. When once we reach the targets, or even if we don't, right, 60+% of that, after paying all these stakeholders and dividends, etc., goes to philanthropy. What a beautiful company to work for. you know I don't know any other company. With my limited knowledge, I don't know any other company that does that, that is so particular about business, and yet they give back to the community at the end. So I learned very early in my career, I always remember the end game. What a beautiful end game the company, IHCL and the Tata Group has, and makes me very proud to be part of this company. And that's the impact we make, and that's the impact we I make as a leader to my team members here. When I speak to them, I speak with the same passion, that hey, we should all be so proud of working with a company that means well, that is culturally rich, that has got very strong values of trust, awareness, and joy. These are our values. TAJ, trust, awareness, and joy. So the trust that you have on me as employees, my team has on me, the trust that I have on them, the trust that the guest has, that the brand promise we made in India, the same brand promise would be delivered in London, and the same brand promise will be delivered in New York, right? So
Mm.
that's your trust. Awareness is being aware of everything around you, being aware of your guest needs, being aware of your associate needs, being aware of your investors needs, being
Mm.
aware of what's happening around you, to be, like we were saying earlier, to be very, very agile and adapt quickly to the changing scenario around the world, right? And have joy. What's the point of doing something when you're miserable? You should have fun in whatever you do. And again, I like to quote my CEO and MD, Mr. Puneet Chatwal. He always says that he loves his job. And I heard that so many times in my career when I was young. People used to say, if you don't love your job, don't do it. But when a CEO tells you with so much of assertiveness, I love my job, I was like, you know what? That is so true. What's the point of doing something if you don't like it? And I use that, and now I see my peers, my team members, everybody is, I love my job. So it is important to, that's why we say joy at work. So
Mm.
trust, awareness, joy, our three values are very close to all of us. And that's what we abide by.
Thank you so much for that inspiration. I think you've fully infected me with Tajness. And
I'm glad.
from your lips to God's ears, and that might be every customer that we serve, every family member that we serve, if we could bring that sense of joy and trust and commitment. What a great mantra to leave this conversation, and I look forward to many more with you. It was an honor to take this time together, and thank you for making that impact on the world that you serve.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm so glad we met in London, and finally we could do this together. It was good fun. It was a very good conversation. Lovely talking to you, and I also really hope so. We would do that again in the near future.
Thank you.